to me, when I can relax together with someone, then I know I'm myself now. I'm at harmony. So if other people can be more at peace or in harmony with themselves with me, then I think that's the best.
This audio recording is an extension of the community explorations at inlightconnect.com, where we explore self-inquiry, meditation, and conscious observation as a way of connecting with more love, compassion, and freedom. Welcome to the In Light Connect Community Explorations Podcast. I'm your host, Tiger, and naturally we are going to explore the miracle of life. And today we are talking about the beauty, the brilliance, and the opportunity of addiction. And I am so excited about my second guest, since I'm deciding to do guests now on the show. I met Shama Perrson on Clubhouse, which is my new favorite app to hang out in. And we were both kind of just sharing insight in a room, and I just fell in love with everything she was saying. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can talk to her off of Clubhouse and record it and then share it with the world. Shama Perrson, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I have a really good day. Just enjoying Stockholm sun, dogs, been out running, did a little painting, and I'm just going about my day as I normally do these COVID pandemic days. Nothing special, but everything's really kind of special. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's like if you step back a moment and look at it, it's like, oh, this has its own unique quality of beauty.
Yeah. I just a few days ago I found some chestnuts. If you're in Sweden and the chestnuts, they lose, or they fall down from the trees, and then they need the winter to sprout. So I tried to make them sprout like in the autumn in my freezer, but I didn't manage. And a few days ago I found them on the ground, totally dirty. And then I could see them. So now I planted some. And this morning they are like, 3-4 centimeters high. And I'm like, wow, what's happening in my living room? Those kind of things totally amaze me. Yeah.
Well, I think that's just such a great start when you realize that all of the seasons play their part in the growth of things in this life.
But isn't that amazing?
You can't just have it one way. Yeah, it is amazing.
It's amazing. Like you can't take the chestnut and plant it, make it grow until it has been frozen for several months.
That is amazing.
That is amazing.
In our topic today, what is your sort of background as it relates to addiction, as both one who has traveled the path and then also who holds space for others?
For me, addiction is like, I think this is the topic that's closest to my heart because it's somehow really, that's what began for me the earliest. Of course, first comes trauma, second comes anxiety, third comes addiction. That's how I see it. But I was traumatized when I was 3. My parents separated, and it was very, it happened overnight, and I didn't find myself really well in that situation and was left alone a lot. So at 4, I spent quite a lot, not a lot of time, but sometimes I spent it alone at home, and I learned how to read because I needed to pass time. And then reading became like my first addiction. And then after that, my second one was food, learning how to console myself with food. My mom was quite poor, so we didn't have a lot. And whenever I was with friends and they had something, that was really, really nice, ice cream or chocolate and so on, I was binge eating. I always had to monitor the others, so I didn't eat more than them and so on. And then after that came sports. Turned out I was really brilliant at soccer, football, as we say in Sweden. And that gave me so much recognition, so much confirmation. So I became a sports addict. I did soccer, volleyball, basket, bandy, triathlete, what track and field. And I did everything. So I was never, never, ever at home. And after that, all of a sudden at age 14, I grew, became a teenager, got boobs over the summer, came back, and the guys suddenly noticed me. And I was like, what is this? And they wanted to hang out with me. They invited me to drink alcohol. And that was a different kind of relief, because during all these years, all the struggle with being bullied and the separation, mom and dad, and arguing, and a lot of things happened. So I always needed this escape. And alcohol became like my first, what shall I say, substance related addiction. And that I hang on to. My father got cancer at the same time when I began to drink. My mother became unemployed. And then my life just developed down that. I'm sure many people know this track where things go sideways, when they just go wrong. You don't show up at school, you're kicked out from home, you drink more, you sleep with more guys, you end up in the wrong bed more often than you end up at home, and so on. And you begin to feel this total disrespect of yourself. And you need to soothe that further. And then it's like just a vicious circle. So that's like my early background to it.
Well, let's speak to that, because you said so many profound things before we get to the next part of the question. What I love is how you express these addictions that we don't normally look at addictions when we think about the word addiction. We always go to the substance abuse topic. But I like how we can bring in equality among whether it's an addiction to reading or addiction to sport. There's the same mechanism at play where we are attempting to escape something and find some sort of comfort or release. And can you speak to the sort of pain of what you felt was trying to be escaped?
I think for me it was really like I've just finished. I just written a book about it, and I think there are layers. I see it. This is like, first, genes. Of course, I have my genes. My grandfather was an alcoholic. Maybe my mom too. Then I have the family structure. How do we do in our family, and the trauma when they separated, and how I missed my father. I never got to see my dad, and this longing for my father. And then I was growing up with my mom and my sisters, which was for me a hostile environment, because I was kind of born into this divorce. And I think I was the issue, I was the trouble that kind of made, I felt like that. And I think I early took on this role that I need to be quiet. I need to, keep it inside to not make it worse in a way. And I really felt so not welcomed and not loved. So this looking for love and confirmation in all the wrong places, because there's nothing inside. It took, I don't know how many years it takes for like a child to lose the feeling of that you're okay, your okayness, if you don't receive it at birth. If you don't receive it in your family, I don't know if it takes like 6 months or a year or 5 years or whatever, but this feeling of not belonging. And this feeling I took into the classroom. I took it even into the soccer team. But since I was the best, it was easier because I was the best, but I couldn't socialize. So for me, it was always like perform. I could perform, but I didn't know the social language. And I always felt like an outcast. And if I was alone reading, or if I was alone eating, then I did that alone. But with alcohol, a new layer came when I wasn't this shy person. It took away the fear, so I dared to step out of this unsafe skin that was me for an hour or two, or a day, 24 hours, So in some way, alcohol was the first drug that took me somewhere else instead of just me on my own in my room or in the kitchen.
Wow, that's really fascinating. What I hear what I hear you saying is there was this perspective or this recognition that saw yourself at fault or saw yourself as not enough. And this was very loud in the present moment. And so we had to find some way to escape that.
Mm.
And naturally, it retreated into a sort of shyness where it didn't feel safe to be you because naturally you're perceived to be at fault and you could make it worse or be seen as in fault. And we want to hide that. And all of these avenues of addiction seemed to help you escape that pain. And then the addictions began to get more, I guess we could use the word toxic, but had their own illusionary quality of success, where it's like, okay, this is helping me come out of my shell. But naturally, as we've all experienced, that when we find these sort of synthetic solutions, it's not feeding what we're actually looking for. It's almost making it worse, like a delay of the pain. And this is what I love so much about investigating this, is that just through listening to your story, I resonate how much it's so my story in the play of being super uncomfortable in the present moment because I see something wrong with myself and I'm desperate to find some sort of escape. It's like I can't be still. If I'm just still, I'll freak out because I see how much I don't like myself.
Mm.
And so I really got to find some escape. And you know what? This brings such a softness to my heart,
I feel you. Yeah.
right? Because
Totally.
it's like, when you look at another human being with eyes of love and you see what they really are, you see that they're not broken and you
Mm.
see that they're not to be blamed and you see how whole and complete they are. And yet within them is this innocent misunderstanding that thinks they're undeserving of love.
Mm.
It's tragically heartbreaking, but also adorably sweet.
It is, and I think this is like I said the other day, and we laughed so much when I said I love addicts. I just love them because I see, there's a story behind. There's a depth there. They have been through. I know they have been through hell. You don't become an addict unless you've been through hell. And it doesn't matter what you use or how you use it. It's just like there's this amount of pain and you need a relief, even if you know you're going to pay for it more tomorrow. It's worth it because
It is worth it.
that's how painful it is. And I think
Yeah.
also the self-loathing and the self-hatred and the self-destructiveness. And then once today, I'm out of it today. I don't know how it's going to be tomorrow, but today I am. Whenever I have these self-destructive thoughts or, that used to take me into addictive behaviors, then I just feel like this, oh, but that's okay. That's okay. Of course you feel that. I mean, you went through so much. Of course, I totally understand you. I feel you. And I feel that this compassion that I have towards myself now, that that's so needed. I mean, that's really that's kind of the key that I see. Okay, you want to go do drugs? Okay, I feel you. It's really painful right now, but maybe there is another way. Okay, it's okay. You want to do it? I feel you. If you want to do it, but you don't have to do it.
So what you're saying is the compassion that you discovered in your own journey is now a compassion you see everywhere when you look at other human beings.
It's like
Isn't that interesting?
yeah, but it's almost like a handicap. It's almost like a disability I can feel because when I see you, and you come to me and everyone has their things. We all have our issues. We all have I was in a room previous to this and people who grew up being sexually abused, and the pain of that and the, suffering. And I feel really, and then I can't help but look to the next generation and the next generation, and see the pain, the massive pain that is kind of inherited down, because we as children do as we are told, taught to. It's not like we do as we have been done to. I mean, I separated really drastically from my kid's father, just like my mom. And I see myself, what the fuck? I'm repeating history because that's what I learned. It's almost that's more in my genes than my genes are, what mom and dad did. My dad being the hero. My kids, their dads are also heroes. I'm the struggling mom and the fathers are heroes. And I just see it so clearly, like, wow, we are so kind of, it takes so much. And I think it takes so much compassion towards ourselves to break free and see the bigger picture and really say that, wow, am I really doing this? Do I want to be part of this repetition, this cycle? Is there a different cycle of life? Do I really need to? I really want to talk about like 12-step programs. We spoke a little about going there and being there and thinking this is the solution. I mean, the fear that is around addiction. Even to think the thought, I'm an addict, I can say every day, I'm an addict. I told you the other day, I can eat dirt. If it will give me a release from whatever pain I'm suffering from, I will eat it, But I really feel that when there's so much fear of being an addict, then I think we also kind of lose freedom. It's like we hold ourselves so hard to be right or be okay and not become this or that, instead of just, having compassion to what we actually are in this moment and what took us here.
That's an interesting point because in my experience, I remember early on where there was also the addiction of identity, whether I'm this or I'm not that,
Mm.
and becoming the opposite of what I despised was its own addiction. Like if I saw myself as a failure in an identified way, then I would try to identify with I'm a success. And that became its own addiction that was fueled by the inadequacy and the same sort of inner violence that saw myself as not enough, so I need to become successful. And
Mm.
albeit in the world, you can say it's a healthier addiction, but I would still say it carries the same sort of destruction. But as it relates to your compassion that you see now, and we also spoke about the seasons and their equality, would it be safe to say that the compassion you have today is intimately intertwined with the pain and they go together in a way that if it wasn't for the struggle of blooming, so to speak, as the flower, seeds through the soil,
Mm.
do you think that the compassion you experience today can be divorced from the pain?
No, I think you're totally right, because I think it's almost like I did so much inner work and personal growth, retreats and stuff and courses and therapy. And it's not until I stopped drinking alcohol, something really shifted. It's like
Ooh, talk about that.
when I took away my great, and it's not like I was an alcoholic, drinking a bottle of wine every day. It was like 1 or 2 glasses of wine every now and then, but it was really soothing me. It was making me calm down. It was making me, feel more okay or relax or whatever. And I feel like when I removed that door, I had to kind of get to know myself. And I feel like also why did I stop using alcohol when I was 20? Because I got pregnant. I didn't do that. I wasn't, trying to take a step to become sober. God or, the universe made it happen to me. So I was more or less sober. I raised 4 kids, and then 5, 6 years ago, I began to drink again. And I ended up in the same position as when I was 19, 20. And I did that for a year and a half. And then I stopped. And when I stopped, I realized, okay, there is someone here who has had absolutely no recognition during like the last 50 years. And what are we going to do? And I felt like totally, I don't even know who she is. I don't know what I like. I don't know who I like. I don't know, you know, uh, I have no ground. It was almost like, what is this? And I got so insecure. All the shyness, everything came rushing onto me as before I was 14, like, and I became so shy. So it took me like these years to try to take little steps. I became depressed over and over again. And but to not go back to alcohol, to just say, okay, and I think that this compassion that you say, that the pain, I've learned, especially the last year, that this compassion, it's not anymore me talking to my inner child in a therapeutic way. I'm going to carry my inner child to this activity. Now it's really like whenever I have a self-destructive thought or negativity comes, I'm like, my sister. I'm like, okay, that's okay. So it's become, I don't know, I think for me, it's like the less destructive, self-destructive things I do, the more I build some kind of like, okay, so you don't hate yourself anymore. You're not doing this to yourself anymore. You're not covering this pain in alcohol. Okay, so you're going to feel it. You're going to sit with it. Okay, so then we do that. And slowly, slowly, by doing good stuff instead of doing negative stuff that is hurting me, that compassion built. I think that like one day at a time doing something good for me instead of one day at a time doing something bad for me kind of showed me the way. And all of a sudden I feel like, okay, I have no job. I'm like, I'm more or less in my apartment all day, except when I'm walking the dogs, and I'm still okay. I'm separated from people and kids and stuff, and and I'm still okay. And I feel that this is something for me. I needed to let go of the alcohol to kind of face myself.
Yeah, what I hear you saying, and correct me if I'm not interpreting correctly, but what I hear you saying is that you came back to the present moment and courageously inquired into what was actually true. It's like you got so exhausted from running from the pain, you decided to be present and question what's actually happening. And the more you got honest about what's actually happening, you realized you're okay. And this is the pointer of spirituality beyond all the fluff, is to be present and see that you're fine. Because we want to run away because we think we're not, right? We think that there's something wrong. And as you become more present and you breathe, you start to see all of the imagination that isn't actually happening. And to recognize what's true, you tap into this sort of guidance and power, or compassion, we might call it, to recognize, oh, I don't need to run. I can be here. And what I love about the unfolding of these journeys is how pain is a teacher. It is a teacher to come back to the present moment. And the conditioning that we have is that pain is wrong, or that we should get rid of pain, or that it means something about us. And so in that, we avoid a vulnerability that isn't willing to look at it. And in the avoidance of it, we don't see its lessons. We don't see its gift. We don't listen to it. And therefore, we have no guidance. And so, and likewise, in your experience for me, It was the exhaustion from running to the pain and coming back to the present moment. And again, this isn't a one-time thing.
No.
This is part of the human journey. And again, it's another point that we're not looking for a solution where we never have to face these fears again. It's deeply integrated into our everyday lives where we learn more and more that there isn't so much to be afraid of like we used to think there was. And so we are much more available to come back to the present moment and not push the pain away and listen to it. And I often illustrate it in the way of a child, knocking on your heart, asking if it can come out and play. And often we say, no, I'm too busy pretending to be important, playing this game as an adult, pretending to be something I'm not. And this child, which is just a deep sincerity, wants to be seen. And I think that this is the brilliance of pain and addiction, is that part of life's conscious design is that pain serves. It serves in such a way that it points you home. And for those who are struggling with addiction, I would imagine that there's a real avoidance of looking at the pain, where we say, no, I want to get rid of it, or I want to get over it. It's right. It's like, help me take something to not look at this pain. And we just get exhausted. And sooner or later, we have to go into therapy or something, some sort of container that helps us be present and look at what's really going on. And we start to see, oh, there's not so much to be afraid of here. And for me, that's the compassion. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, but I also think that pain never says, okay, here I am, I'm pain, kill me, stab me, remove me. Hey, I'm pain, get rid of me. Pain says, hey, I'm here. There's something, I have a clue, I have something for you. It's almost like pain comes with a gift and says, hey, I'm pain again. So this happened, situations repeat themselves, they happen again, and we need to, but pain never says, get rid of me. Pain always says, you need to take care of yourself.
Pain says, look.
Pain says, look, and look inside, and really, because I also feel like pain says, we have such a fear of pain that we want to we either want to hide it, pretend we don't have it. No, we don't care. I wasn't hurt. I put it down, and then I go home and I drink my head off. Or I gossip with my friends and say Tiger was an asshole, blah, 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 and so on. We have our ways, instead of saying like, fuck, that hurt me. And say, hey, Tiger, what you really said, it hurt me so much. I got so sad. Really, really. And it reminded me totally of when I was at school, blah, 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 whatever, but there's such a fear to be direct and open, because I think the fear of rejection, especially if you are an addict and you have your reasons, is really hard. It's so courageous to stick with pain and to be there. And I think also to find people, find resources, because to get out of addiction is not just snap and then it's over. I think to really connect with people that you trust and you feel that this person, I can hold his hand, I can call him when I feel like, hey, I feel I'm becoming depressed. Because for me, for example, since I was 3, I've become up and down depressed in my whole life. And I know when that hits me, when it happens, I need to connect with people. Before, I used to be so ashamed that I wasn't happy, so I hide it, and I drank a glass of wine instead, or I connected with a new boyfriend. But now I can be vulnerable because I know it's not going to kill me. I know it's going to help me. If I reach out to you and say, hey, Tiger, today is really a difficult day for me, and you will say, hey, Shama, I feel you, then I know it's going to turn. Instead of not calling, I don't reach out. If you call me, I won't pick up the phone, etc., etc. So to just take a step out of because the circle goes down or it actually goes up. And my experience is that it goes up way faster than it goes down. You can work on yourself becoming a severe addict for 40 years. But when you decide, I'm going to treat myself good, I'm going to take care of myself, the change can happen overnight, literally, in a week, in a month, if you just take the first. It's like the universe, whenever you take the decision, I'm going to care for myself, I really am, then it's like the universe says, finally, okay, finally. And then it's like you and Patrick spoke so yesterday, I loved it, about the wave, then it's like the surf, the wave of life, it really takes you, wow, like this. You are carried. When you do good for yourself, something bigger than you is carrying you, walking you,
What I hear in that is a surrender to wholeness, which is a surrender back to what you might call taking care of yourself, a surrender to healing, like it's time. It's time to nurture what I am rather than hiding from parts of myself that are there. This surrender, man, it's such a fantastic exploration. But for me, the surrender was letting go of the world, letting go of wanting other people to approve of me, letting go of wanting something in the world, whether, to be successful or to be this, that, and the other, and really coming back to what I am. And naturally, that only came through the absolute failure of trying to be what other people wanted me to be. And I was just murdering myself in the process. And I often tell people that if you want to be accepted by the world, you have to reject yourself. You have to say, right? And it's just really,
so
really interesting to look
brilliant.
at. It's like if I say,
Wow.
I want you to accept me, I have to be who you want me to be in order to get your acceptance, which means I can't be sincere. I can't allow the truth of what I am to be what it is. Do you see how violent that is? That's like saying to yourself, it's not okay to be you. And that self-violence continues to build and build and build over days, weeks, and months and years until it bursts. Because that inner violence will at some point express itself as external violence. And again, that's what I love so much about life's design. It's like the violence shows itself on the outside as a mirror so that we can see what's happening on the inside. It's like an alarm. Because if we don't listen to the inner alarm, then we get an outer alarm.
Exactly.
And then likewise, knowing that my external violence is a reflection of inner violence, I see it's the same for other people. So when other people express violence, I know that it's not about me. It's that there's an inner violence happening, which only draws up more compassion. And it completely changes the dynamic between me and the other human being. Because if I think their violence is personal, like about me, then I return violence, often called as, a defense. But really, I'm misunderstanding what's happening. And then I withhold love from the other person. It's so kind of tragic, in its own right. But that's so, so beautiful. My goodness.
And it's also, as you say, it's also exhausting, because if you can't be yourself, you have to be who you want me to be, and then I have to be who you want me to be, and who you want me to be. So you have to be like a million different personalities if you want to please everyone. You always adapt, and people will have expectations on you which you can't fulfill, because that's their, expectation, and they will perceive you in a way, and all the people will perceive you differently. So it's really like, and to not be yourself. But I can say that I am still struggling, and struggling really, really hard at times with this conditioned way, seeking approval, being validated. Who am I? Am I okay? Yes or no? And I see this now, that these are my so-called self-destructive, ways of not letting myself be who I am. That and then again comes this voice saying, that's okay. You still, it's still painful. You still
And
carry the pain,
and this struggle is also the pointer home, which I find to be so beautiful. Again, we're not looking for a human experience where we get rid of the struggle. It's an integration of it,
Yeah.
realizing it's there for you. And so often we can think that we're trying to transcend the human experience, like we get rid of pain and struggle, not realizing that to transcend the human experience is really a complete allowing of the human experience. It's recognizing that, oh, all parts are necessary. And so I don't have to fix it. I can listen to it. And it's so funny because, again, it brings me back to the seasons. It's like we can say, I'm going to transcend the seasons and only live in summertime.
Exactly.
No,
I'm just gonna
transcending
say,
it. Yeah, transcending it is seeing the beauty in all of the seasons. It's recognizing, oh, I don't have to change them. I change the way that I see them. And as I change the way that I see them, then my experience changes. How many dogs do you have?
right now, 3.
Sounds like it.
It's like, sorry about that. A big dog just came home. My life is consisting of dogs, more or less. No, but that's like true. And I'm looking at the beauty, brilliance, and opportunity of addiction. One can be addicted to dogs also. No, but to be addicted to fame and fortune like these
Yeah, yeah.
days. You were talking about if an addiction, if it's good for you. We always see like alcohol, drugs, etc., etc., but also things like we consider good. It's better to take the bike and race for 20K a day instead of drinking wine. It's better to do yoga in the morning, lunch, and evening instead of doing cocaine. Question is there any difference? Because this, I feel, also is like our way to kind of sanctionize certain behaviors. So sorry.
You're fine. I can edit all of it out, so no
You
big deal.
can edit it out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. It's
great,
fine.
great, great, great. All the dogs are gone. When it comes to realizing addictions, is any type of substance or behavior that we do and we get negative consequences, and we still can't, and temporary relief, but we can't give it up. Which means that if we take the running, and the family always, where's dad, he's playing golf every day, there are different things that we also see in our normal life that is running, escaping pain, is actually just, we feel that, no, I'm not an addict because I am so healthy, I exercise, I have these muscles, and no, I'm not an addict, but I have 2 million followers on Instagram and I need to make a post every day and have the validation. I can see like the emptiness that comes when we can't do that, because I often feel that there is an empty. How do I know if this is, good or bad? Is this yoga good for me or is it bad for me? If I have an emptiness, if I feel like it's constant, drive and push to escape something, even healthy things are addictions. And I think that's important to point out, that it's not only drugs, alcohol, and destructive substances that we use to escape pain, and to really see that a totally like normal person can be an addict.
Yeah, and it's interesting because what we call healthy is really dependent on what you think the point of life is. It's like if you think the point of life is to get 1 million followers, then it's a healthy addiction to post every day without fail, even though that's not your sincerity. We can kind of justify that this addiction is necessary because it's helping me reach the point of life. And I feel like this is one of the primary misunderstandings of being human that fuels addiction, is our conditioning that believes the point of life is getting to a particular future.
True.
Whether it's to be seen in the world or to have this, that, and the other, when it's my observation that the point of life is to see the truth of life, which is also to say to see the brilliance of what you are, to see through these illusions, because once you see through these illusions, you reconnect with the love and the compassion and the freedom that's genuinely craved. And if you are with love, compassion, and freedom on the inside, then it really doesn't matter what your status is, so to speak, in the world. It's like there's such a wellness inside of you that you don't need anything in the world. And from that space, your experience of life completely transforms and becomes something else entirely. And I think that this is often the difficulty that leads towards running away, is we're actually trying to run towards that image where we're trying to be this or that so that we can get the approval and validation and all of these things. And even like the chaos in the mind, what I observe is that as it gets noisy and chaotic, it's trying to do one of two things, which is find acceptance or avoid rejection. And that's what it runs from in the present moment. It's like it's empty here. It's like it's empty here in the present moment, and there's no acceptance and there's no rejection. And so I have to like protect myself. I have to run away from the moment and either find it or avoid it. But again, when you get present and you see beyond the mind's noise, you realize there's just absolute wholeness. But
I'm laughing now because the present moment here is so full of dogs and noise and everything. And then my mind is like, why did she come now? Couldn't she have waited? Why did she need to pick up the car now? And I told her da 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 da. And I'm like, okay, so this is the present moment.
yes.
This was exactly what we needed here right now. The chaos
And
of
it's
three
not
dogs.
a problem.
Like,
It's not a problem.
It's not
and now I'm not even going to edit the dogs out.
And you know, the dogs, and I got my hands full of fur immediately, and I just felt like I love them so much.
What's funny is this is a perfect example of embracing the moment, because if we ask ourselves, okay, so what's the real problem with the dogs? And the only problem that I would find is that it interrupts my imaginary sense of self-importance, right? It interrupts what I want in the future. Yeah. But in the present moment, it doesn't interrupt anything at all.
No, and it's also like so this was the life. The wave came right now and this happened, and you know, I just feel like, okay, so my thoughts about, oh, I shouldn't have done this and that and so on, and I really feel like, okay, yes, this is a part of my, you know, self judgment, the thoughts that come that actually used to take me to a point in my life where I felt inferior, when I felt I didn't do right, I didn't plan right, and we would finish up and I would feel like that was not good by me, and then I would take a glass of wine or two and try to, and I would never connect with you again. It's like, no.
And then I would think, she hates me. What's wrong with me?
No, but honestly, to really feel like, okay, so this is how it is. It's little things like this can push us over the edge somewhere because we felt we fucked up. Now I didn't do as expected, and that was not good. Instead of saying, okay, Shama, that was lovely. Now everyone knows you have 3 dogs. Okay, good. The names are Charlie, Henry, and Sam.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right. I want to switch gears here.
Yeah, do it.
And do like another side of this coin, which is holding space for those who struggle with addiction, whether it's in your work or whether it's people you love. And I think this is really fantastic because it allows us to look at our own nonsense that judges those who are addicted and desperately want to change them for all the wrong reasons, so to speak. And so one of the things that you spoke about earlier was being connected to others who you can call. And I want to ask you a question. It's a 2-part question. Would you rather call someone and they try desperately to fix you, or would you rather call someone who is just there to listen and hold space?
Is that a question?
Yes, I know the answer. I know the answer because I know how frustrating it is.
Fix me and do it fast. No, of course. And I know also whom to call. Yeah. Who listens and holds space for me to be just as miserable as I am, you know? who just listen and say like, hey, it's okay. People who
Do you
know
see?
me well.
You see, and we've been talking about the power of the present moment and the healing quality of being present. And when you're determined to fix someone, it's like you're trying to get to the future.
Mm,
And so there can't be much healing. And often it can actually energize the ego, like almost offer a motivation that says, okay, I can get to the future. But yet often that just fails and we end up beating ourselves up. But the invitation to hold a space that allows people to be present so that life can present a healing opportunity rather than me trying to pretend to be a healer and take credit and realize that this is life's miracle. And I'm
mm,
going to invite this person into life's miracle through love and
mm.
acceptance. And, you know, and again, it comes back to that compassion where I'm here to see you. I'm not here to fix you. And so in your experience with the work that you do or the play, what is your approach with holding space for others who are struggling with addiction?
I think that one thing that I do is that what I used to be ashamed of, what I used to hide, I kind of put that on my outside. So they see me. Okay. People can see me and know that I'm a woman, I'm a mother, I've struggled with addiction, I have several suicide attempts, and that's part of my journey. I have a history. I came, my belly is full of marks from the kids, and, what I'm not hiding who I am. And I think that to be yourself and show up as yourself, I think that makes people relax and able to be themselves too. But if I show up as I'm superior or that I'm taking like a top position, I know it all. I know I have the recipe to something, I can solve your problems. Then I feel that I'm not God. I have no idea how to solve your problems. Only, I used to, beginning when I went into, personal development and so on, everyone in that field was like, I know it, I have the solution.
Yes.
And then when I came to AA, it was like, we have the solution. And then I realized that whatever you do is it's just different roads leading to the same point. And that point is me returning to my essence and just feeling I'm okay, which means that if I feel I'm okay, you're okay too. If I feel like I'm not okay, then you're not okay either. Because it's like we are each other. It's almost like I don't play God in other people's lives because I don't think I'm clueless. I'm still as clueless. I'm just, walking my path. And if by doing that, someone else can walk their path and do their thing and see, okay, I can dare to do or be or whatever, then I'm super grateful. If one person receives some help by me being me, I think that is okay. Because I think if you are you together with me, which means that validates if you can be you, then I can be me too. If you're going to pretend to be someone else, who am I going to pretend to be then to match you? It's really like, I think it's the more we can, and I think social media is like very, very tricky, is really super, super tricky. That's why do I enjoy Clubhouse? Because for me, it's like coming into a meeting, just hanging out with people. I don't know you, listen to you, I hear you speak and so on. I know nothing about you, and then I leave. I don't need to go into your bios and put a lot of labels and judgments and, flash this or that and become insecure or anything. I can just listen to you. And if I enjoy it, I stay. If I don't enjoy it, I leave. And I really feel like people showing up as themselves. Like immediately when I went into your room the first time, I connected and I just felt like, okay, here's something that I really appreciate. And what did I appreciate? I appreciated how I became when I went into the room. I became peaceful. I relaxed. And to me, when I can relax together with someone, then I know I'm myself now. I'm at harmony. So if other people can be more at peace or in harmony with themselves with me, then I think that's the best, you know. Was that even an answer?
That's so beautiful. And it confirms exactly why I fell in love with you when I first heard you talking, because it was the same understanding. And my goodness, it's just so sweet because I feel the love. I feel the embrace. I feel the trust. I feel the knowing that it's all allowed and that everything is serving. Let's just listen. And I love so much what you say about the equality of just being there in authenticity. And I'm super stoked because the next podcast is going to expand on the strength of vulnerability. But it's so easy because we're on this quest to find ourselves in the world. We can find the addiction of helping people as a way of validating ourselves. And we want to be seen as somebody who has the answers. Again, this is the same quest as the addict who's trying to find something. And we end up just pushing away the miracle. It's almost like we're trying to be God rather than letting God be God. And this is the very classic, adorable story of the devil who sees that everyone's worshiping God and he gets jealous and he says, hey, I want some attention here. What about me? And so he creates hell, through trying to get people to worship him. But anyway, I love the recognition that it's not you that's doing it, that your role is to just hold space and be available to listen from a place of absolute equality. And this invites the other person to listen in themselves to what's happening. And what I see that any modality or any service that is what you might call successful is more akin as a space holder than a fixer. It's a space that allows people to come in with no judgment and listens. And then in the listening, the person gets to see their own sort of confusion and their fears. And then we can look at those fears and see that they're not real, that we don't have to run from them. Thus, we don't have to run towards addiction. And it has its own unfolding that is very much in its own time. There's really no rush to it. It's like whether somebody, has been an addict for 10 years and they still need 5 more years to be an addict. I love you. It's like, I totally get it. I totally understand. Yeah. And also it's important to examine that my problem with an addict, my disturbance, whether it's somebody in my family or somebody that I work with or whatever, my disturbance isn't really about the addict. They're exposing something in me that needs to be looked at rather than I need to fix my disturbance and change this person. We see this a lot in family dynamics where we have other family members who are struggling and we think it reflects back on us. And so we say we have to fix this so that we can fix our family rather than losing your image of a family and looking at the heart of the human being that isn't your property, to satisfy your own inadequacy. And so as we see through these sort of illusions through ourselves, through what we might call our own healing, it's so obvious that we become better space holders. And so rather than wanting to heal or fix other people, I really invite you on your own journey to where you don't feel like you need to fix other people and fall in love with all parts of the human experience. Because the beauty and brilliance and opportunity of addiction is really just a doorway to more love. And for me, again, this is the point of life. It's that love can expand. And so thank God for these challenges that burn up our illusions
Mm.
and bring us back to the present moment.
And I think it's so, and also to realize that it actually you can you can change, your life can change for the positive. It's not because your life has been in a certain way for 40 years doesn't mean it has to continue that way. It's really life can change radically. If you there are always open windows. They're coming, and they often come in the shape of pain or a crisis or something. But to me, those events, when I look back on my life, it's always been like, hey, Shama, you you got to wake up. You got to wake up. There's something wrong here. There's something. And what was missing in my life was me, the love and care for myself. I loved and cared my children and so many other people, but I can really see that since this was lost so early, the addiction and all the destructiveness took me inevitably back to this point where you got to see yourself. And I think you can change and really have a beautiful, beautiful life. I'm so strongly for that. Whatever you are using, if it's a behavior, if it's a drug or something, uh, I really encourage people always to stop using. It doesn't really matter how you do it, but to be able to see, to remove the layer, the cloud, the illusion, is really, really difficult if you keep using. So to go to therapy and do all this inner work and so on, but keep using, then it's like you will always have like a glass wall between you and freedom. So I really always encourage people that if you feel you have an addiction, it's really, really good to seek help and get off that behavior or substance, and then begin this inner journey to really and to reach out to people like you or me and connect through Instagram or Clubhouse and hang out in these rooms. I mean, there's so much. And to me, this is like I'm going to a retreat every day for free.
Yeah.
And listen to all these amazing people and this wisdom. And I feel I grow while I'm walking the dogs.
And what I hear you saying is allow the pain to be there. When you say, let's put an end to the using, what I really hear you saying is the pain's okay.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can allow the pain to show up and then find a container that allows you to look at it. And my goodness, that's the whole premise of the Enlight Connect community, which is to allow us to come together in our authenticity and really see the human experience. We're not trying to be spiritual, but let's just open and be sincere and honor all of the struggles and challenges.
Yeah.
And it's just so beautiful to connect with other humans being humans rather than who we think we should be.
And
Super, super
really
sweet.
say that, okay, the pain I feel is valid. There is a reason that I am an addict. I have every reason in the world to be that, because
Yeah.
that is how big the pain is or was. So to validate that is also to have compassion towards yourself, to say that I see you, I feel you, there's nothing wrong. This was your way to try to make it work, and now we can try a different way. Okay. So to not just push yourself down and say, why can't you stop? Why do you have to do? You shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it. Instead of using that compassion to say, okay, I totally get it, why you are doing this, why you have this behavior. And can we try
That's
a
an
different way?
that's an interesting thing, because often my approach with the addict is to ask them, do you want to stop? It's like, is
Mm.
that sincere? Because it's okay if you're an addict. It's like, I understand. And if you're not done being an addict, then please continue, because I know that the pain will bring them to that pain of inquiry.
Mm.
And so rather than coming from a place of judgment that says you should stop and then you'll be lovable, it's rather, no,
Exactly.
you're lovable as
You're
you are.
lovable. Yeah.
And if this is what you'd like to do, I get it and I understand, and there's no judgment. I love you anyway.
Mm.
However, when you really feel like you're done, then let's talk. And I think that really allows us to lay down the judgment
Mm.
and allow for a sincerity, because often people say they want to change only because they're trying to gain acceptance. It's like, if I change, then my family will approve of me.
Mm.
And so they're not really looking for something sincere. They're still trying to, I guess, capture something in the world. But as somebody starts to really tap into that pain inside of themselves, recognizing the self-violence, and they start to see, well, wait a minute, this is not working. Not just working because other people aren't accepting me, but it's not working for my own heart.
Mm.
It's like, I see that I'm destroying a part of what I am, and I'm ready for healing to show up. Super beautiful. Super beautiful. Tell me about the work that you're doing and the service that you're providing.
I'm not really, what shall I say? I'm a jack of all trades. So I am a trained holistic therapist, but I don't work as it. I have a podcast that's called From Darkness to Light, where I also share about my experiences or insights and so on. And I written a book last year. It's a book that will be published in September. It's about depression and life joy. So I call it a self-help biography. So it's really like to help people. If it can help one person to not commit suicide, then that's my goal. So it's actually embracing the whole topic of depression, why we become depressed and how to, the history and whatever. And there is really like the second part is about how to kind of get out of it in a healthy, holistic way. So it's everything. It's not a big book, but it's like trying to embrace this whole. My whole life, more or less, is poured into that book, and really, because this is one thing I really want to talk about, and it's the connection between addiction and suicide. Depression, addiction, and suicide, they are like behind 90% of all suicides is depression and addiction. And one thing leads to the other. So they are so interconnected that if you are depressed and you're using, okay, yes, of course, you're not going to be, as long as you're using, you're not getting out of the depression, so on. And you can become depressed because you are using, etc. So it's like they go together. So that's what I do. I'm still here. I'm trying to be like, okay, so this is what I have learned, my experience, and I want to present that to the world for other people to be able to heal themselves, and to not come to this point where they don't want to live.
That's beautiful. And we're probably going to have to do another episode on depression, because that's been such an intimate experience in my life and one of the most profound teachers. There's so much wisdom in listening to depression rather than, again, trying to get rid of it. And so, yeah, we'll definitely get together and do that. Before I wrap up here, are you going to be able to hang out for a little bit on Clubhouse?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
With the
We'll,
doggies.
good. We'll take some questions on Clubhouse and we can respond to those.
Are we going to open up the hand raising?
Yeah, we'll open up the hand raising and all these lovely folks hanging out, they can play with us. But to wrap up, where can people find you?
You find me on Instagram, Shama_Perrson, double S. I also have a website, shamaperson.com.
All right. And I'll
If you
link
have
all
my
of
phone number, you can call me.
Okay,
And
I'll link all
follow
of
me on
that.
Clubhouse, of course. I love to be here. Yeah.
All right. And if anybody wants direct access to those links, just go to the show notes or enlightconnect.com/podcast, and you can find that along with what I hope to be a beautiful transcription of this episode that we can maybe turn into a PDF or an ebook
With
that
the
is just
dogs
full. Yes, with
barking.
the dogs. We'll type in some bark barks so that people really get the experience.
Yeah.
But Shama, I want to thank you so much for doing this. It's been such an absolute pleasure connecting with you. And it feels totally possible that I'll see you in person since you're not
Yes.
that far away, and we can share a big hug and celebrate
Yes. That
the
will be
miracle of life.
lovely. Lovely. Thank you so much for having me. I am totally honored. It's been a pleasure. Thank
Thank
you.
you. For those listening, if you are on a podcast player that allows you to rate and review, please take a moment to do that so that we can let the world know that this podcast is worth listening to as we expose more love, compassion, and freedom inside of ourselves that we can then share freely with the world. So until next time, aloha and cheers to the beauty that you already are. You've been listening to an Inlight Connect audio experience. We hope you've enjoyed this journey. If so, let us know. We deeply appreciate all feedback, comments, and reviews. Learn more at inlightconnect.com.